Hello everybody, thank you for coming to watch our video. This is Jimmy Wu from Prowork Pacific Inc, your licensed architect. Today, before we start our topics, we'll do the same thing. Give us a like, comment, and share this to your friend. And also, if you like our video, you may also subscribe us so you won't miss out on our video. So today we are talking one topic, is called new topic, because for this long time, I've been doing many questions, a video about residential project and how they do about commercial, because this is a residential is more owner, they are concerning about what do they build or what can they build to the land. But lately we're getting a lot of question or a lot of customer asking about, hey Jimmy, we want to do commercial project. What is it different? I mean, how is it different from a residential? So today I want to just start talking about generally to talk about what is different between a commercial project to a residential. When we say commercial, there's a lot. There's the coverage is a huge coverage because all projects which is not belongs to residential, that is considered commercial. So today I want to just talk about the most common one. Most common in the town usually talk about is tenant improvement, like small commercial, like doing like restaurant, office, salon, ramen, those type of commercial project. And some of those are in a shopping center or usually this commercial, it should be in a existing building, not building a new building. Building a new commercial building is getting even more complicated and more difficult, which is today I try to not talk about those because it's getting too deep on that. But a lot of customers, I have a lot of business customers, they like to learn about when they preparing commercial project, their shop, store, restaurant, what should they know? Today we're going to talk about the big commercial, small commercial project, and what should be owners know, and what is different when we're working with on this project compared with residential project. Now, first of all, I want to talk about is a code involved. Now, residential, when we talk about doing a house, the very basic we're doing is residential code. And now we're doing international residential code, IRC, and then also is plumbing code. But also the post plumbing code is under IRC. Now, that's very straightforward and simple. And this residential project is, most people thought it was a very easy one, and it is relative compared with commercial. Now, when we're doing commercial project, it involves different code. Now, building code, we got to use International Building Code, and then also we involve with American Disability Act. People knowing that about as ADA, we also always call ADA, which is for handicap, right? So this is ADA code, and then fire code. A lot of the big building, the commercial building, they have fire sprinkler, fire alarm, right? So we do a fire code. Electrical code, we use NEC, National Electrical Code, plumbing code, and also one code people doesn't really knowing that is like Fair Housing Act. When people doing like apartment, condo, they want to build some more units, right, in one building. Like lately they're doing like Bill 7. So these involve like Fair Housing Act. And also one is very important is LUO. Now, in residential, we do also involve LUO, but the portion is very small. Okay, we in the whole book of LUO, maybe we talk about just a couple pages, or let's say involving retaining wall and those stuff, setback, we know maybe about like 10 pages, and then the rest is for commercial. Okay, so think about that is how much the portion about LUO and how complicated. And then in zoning, residential zone is called our zone, right? Besides our zone, agricultural, apartment, BMX, industrial. If in special district, Waikiki is a resort, right? Apartment prison, so forth. A lot of different zonings, all considered is commercial project. Okay, so the zoning for commercial project is much complicated than residential. And a lot of people, if they're not familiar, they don't have enough experience in commercial project, they will getting like a lot of hardship when they start doing joint and design. So in that's what we always encourage client, when you want to do a commercial project, please, you highly recommend use licensed design professional. We have as a third party reviewer, we have seen a lot of customer, they use a draftsman and try to do commercial project, and when we look at a drawing, that we find that they miss a lot of stuff. And also when we send our comment back to them for building code, mechanical, electrical code, or structural code, and they don't know how to address. Also is when we bring DPP comment, our zoning, water supply, they don't know how to address it. So it become disaster because the project becomes stuck on the draftsman's hand. Okay, so now this is the next step I gotta talk about. That is, in a commercial project, how many consultants we involved. Now in residential, usually you will need one draftsman, architect, or one engineer to design, right? And then if you have a draftsman, what they do is he gotta hire one structural engineer to stamp his drawing, to do the structural calculation for him, or even an architect. Even licensed architect, we will hire a structural engineer for doing the structural calculation for us too. Right? So mostly you're doing architect and then one structural engineer. Now, if it's a bigger project, you may involve like civil because you need to do a bigger site work like grading, retaining wall. So you might need a civil engineer. But otherwise, usually for regular residential project you need architect and structural engineer. Now, for commercial project, that become more complicated. For a commercial project, you will need an architect, you will need a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, structural engineer. Now, sometimes also you need civil engineer, and sometimes you need a landscape architect as well. For talk about consultant coordination, now for customer, probably you will not know. Okay, even involve more people, then let the architect, let the draftsman do it, right? Now, this is the different things. Now, when we're doing residential project, because you only involve the guy who draw the drawings, maybe after he draws the drawing, he needs a structural engineer to do the calculation for the framing. But think about in a commercial project, the architect will draw the drawing, we call architectural drawing or background, and then we gotta pass it on to like mechanical engineer to do the plumbing, to design air conditioning, right, on the drawing, and also electrical engineer provide electricity, enough power to each equipment, and then also structural engineer to calculate all the support. Now think about that. A lot of owner, when they're doing a house, they feel that it's easy to making change. Anytime they want to doing a drawing, for example, I see client, they come to my office when we're doing design. He comes to my office every week to make change. Oh, Jimmy, I think about this. Jimmy, I think about that. Should I change my home like this? Should I change my home like that way? But for commercial, they're a little different, because when we do commercial project, every time when we change one thing in the architectural side, it could affect mechanical, electrical, structural, and so forth, right? So then in between, the coordination become more complicated because the draftsman or the person need to know whom he should coordinate, whom he need to coordinate, right? So in this part, if the person, the design professional, is not experienced or is not licensed, he doesn't know how, then it will somehow let the project going become uncontrolled. So this has become important. Now, not only the drawing, okay, the coordinated drawing is important because if the architect or the draftsman does not know also about this, I have seen some drawings is the architectural drawing doesn't match mechanical or doesn't match electrical. When we review, it doesn't put together. And also it happens because when we review it, we will see architectural drawing only, right? Mechanical reviewers see mechanical only. Sometimes it does get passed and get the permit. But when you get in the job site, when you start doing construction, then your contractor will find out, hey, Mr. Owner, how come your drawing doesn't match your architect drawing and your mechanical doesn't put together? You start getting conflict. And those money you spend to fix this conflict on the job site, after you get a permit, will cost you more than when the time during design. Imagine that if you catch this conflict, okay, we only fix it in drawing, which is much easier, right? Versus when you do it in the job site, when you the contractor or the plumber, they already did that and figure out, how come something wrong, and then they need to redo it, take down what they did and redo it, and it's gonna definitely cost you more money. So that the coordinated is very important for a commercial project. Now, after the coordination, I will talk about the permit review process. This is very important too. For commercial project, especially a lot of for residential project, basically we just submit a drawing to DBP review or third party review, right? And brought to CEB, typical wastewater, like water supply, right? Now for commercial projects, sure, we need all those, right? CEB, wastewater, water supply, and more. Okay, now number one is if this shop or this space is inside a shopping center. Nowadays, it's very common is shopping center, they require to review the drawing. Okay, with some major shopping center in town like Ala Moana, Waikiki, the Royal Hanoi Shopping Center, International Marketplace, the one in Kapolei Shopping Center, the Pearl Ridge Shopping Center, a lot of them, they require the drawing review. And they have their own, some of them, they have their own design guidelines. So the architect need to know how to design according to it. Okay. Now, this again, for some, draftsmen or engineer, if they have no experience on those kind of projects, they will have hardship for designing this kind of project because they don't know which part to follow, because their guidelines sometimes stick like this, like this. And then not only architect, mechanical, electrical, everybody have their own portion they need to follow. And the top guy, the architect or design professional, the main guy, need to coordinate with them. Okay. And also this become part of the review. A lot of times shopping center require you cannot apply for building permit until they give you approval. Then you can go apply building permit. So some of this is very more complicated in the project. And then now when we go into building department, okay, one of the difficult part for commercial project is zoning, because like I say, commercial property zoning requirement, the LU or land use requirement is much complicated than residential, right? It involves BMX, involve AMX, involve I-zone, right? Different zones have different rules. And also, and these rules sometimes getting very complicated and not that easy to understand. Okay. So, I have seen that people, have tried to design an apartment in a BMX zone, business mix zone. And when he designed, and he thought that it's because, BMX zone doesn't need setback in the side yard and backyard. So he designed an apartment without setback. But he didn't know that actually if you design residential in a BMX zone, you will require setback as an apartment setback. So then he doesn't know this. So then the whole design, which is when he have the whole set of drawing and then try to come to see us with a third party review, and then look at that, I don't think that it works. The whole design doesn't work. So then the owner will jump in, hey, how come is this? And well, I explained to him because the way you design a setback doesn't work. It is wrong, right? So then he got to go back to see the architect and end up is like, he has to redo the whole design because of the setback issue. So zoning is one of the big issues for commercial. If for draftsmen, if they only do residential project, then or hardly do commercial, it's not that easy. So as an owner, if you try to hire someone to do a project for you, again, if this is a draftsman and he doesn't know about how to do a commercial, you've got to be careful. Okay. Now also is the other agency like water supply. Again, when we do a water supply, also they have different review. They will count the plumbing fixture. Now, when you do a house plumbing fixture is within the house. But when you're doing a building, when you're doing one space inside a building, for water supply, they need to know the whole building fixture count. That's why they always ask you what is a fixture count. And as an architect, as a design professional, you need to coordinate it with water supply and with your mechanical engineer to find out all this background, all this information. If you do not, then you will spend a lot of time back and forth with water supply and try to resolve this, right? So, and then also, the next one is about wastewater. Wastewater have additional requirement for commercial project, especially when we do restaurant. They will ask you to do sewer connection application. Actually, a lot of retails, when you apply for commercial project, the wastewater will ask you to do a sewer connection application first. We call SCA. And then if you're doing a restaurant, they will ask you another thing. It's called IWDP, Industrial Waste Disposal Permit. All of this is, if the architect doesn't know that in advance, then only when they submit the permit, then when they see the comment, and, we need to do that, and then go talk to the engineer. Then it wastes a lot of time on that. Okay, besides wastewater, when we do a restaurant, That's a common thing. So you gotta go with DOH, Department of Health, for like sanitation, for ventilation review, and then you need to prepare all the documents to apply. If you're not familiar with that, again, then your project gotta stop and gotta waste extra time. And also another one is for commercial project is it's kind of tricky. Is DLNR, Department of Land and Natural Resource, or people known as a historical department. Right? So in Honolulu, in Hawaii, sorry, not Honolulu, in Hawaii, for commercial project, if you're doing a project in a commercial building and this commercial building is older than 50 years, we need to send our drawing to DLNR for review, for so-called historical review. Means you got to show them, okay, the way what project we do, it does not affect the historical look about the building. We do not damage the historic feature of the building, so forth, something like this. And not for residential, people do not need to deal with that. Okay, we don't have this part. And so that's why for adjustment, if they have no experience in a commercial project, and when they jump into a commercial project, sometimes when they hit this, they don't even know how to do and what to do with DLNR. And then they just come, running around and try to ask people, how do we do this? How do I do that? And there's a lot of different paperwork to submit, so they don't know, right? So end up they gotta try to spend more time. Then all of these add up. Then if a person doesn't know or not familiar with commercial project as a designer or draftsman, he will get this project screw up, and this project can take maybe 8 months, 9 months, to getting a permit. So imagine if you're a business owner and you try to save money and hire some unqualified person to do your project, and end up spending much time, and then end up paying extra money on the rent, because you need to pay rent on that, right? So that's why in here, my recommendation, like I say in the beginning, if you're doing a project, commercial project, highly recommended you should use licensed professional. Yeah, licensed architect, licensed engineer, especially the architect, whoever do the design, the prime architect, who should be experienced person of doing commercial project. Okay, today I want to stop here because there's too much thing about commercial, but I'll just generally talk about that. In future, in the other video, I will try to maybe talk about the other zoning, the other different commercial type project. And should you have any questions, you're welcome to send us comment, send us email, or even call us about your commercial project, and we can help you also. Thank you very much.